What's going on, YouTube? Legend here once again, this time at you again with some more Honkai Star Rail. It is time again to talk about the new tier list for version 3.0. Big Herta has made her way to the meta and she's shaking it up. It's only right to see how the meta has been affected. I didn't take a look at it when Sunday came out. Mainly because I didn't think he was going to change too much because his niche isn't here yet, even though I did make a video talking about why I feel like people kind of overglaze Sunday a little bit in comparison to someone like Sparkle when his niche isn't here. I think he, deserves his glaze, but his glaze is, he deserves his glaze once his time to shine comes, but his time to shine hasn't come yet. So, but that's besides the point. I want to take a look at this. I'm going to try and keep it a little bit short because, to be quite honest, I'm kind of sick and I've been coughing up a storm. I don't want to edit all that coughing. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at the tier list and see what they've done. All right, so of course there's a few changes since before Sunday came. And all right, it looks like we got a good amount to talk about. All right. But to start things off, we'll talk about, well, who we came here for. Herta, the Herta. And well, this is exactly what I expected. In the video that I talked about who you should summon in terms of like all the 8 banners that we had to choose from, I did say that both Herta and Aglair are going to be tier 0 units. I did say that. It looks like they changed around who consider DPS and specialists and such, but we'll talk about it in a second. But lo and behold, guess what? The Herta is at the top. She is, it doesn't rank who's 1 and 2 and 3. It's just in alphabetical order. But she is deals the most damage. She deals the most damage out of all these units at E0, S0. I actually love her. I actually love her play style. There's different ways you can play her. For example, for me, I have her with Jade and Robin and Ling Sha, and instead of having Jade do her debt collector on Herta, I have her do it on Ling Sha, and that way I can have my Ling Sha hit another speed break point and just have like 4 actions in one cycle or whatever. It's beautiful, and she gets to hit all the enemies each time. So Jade's going crazy, and then when Herta comes, she just lays out nukes. So it's a fantastic team if you have all the pieces. And the thing is, you might think it's not one of those things where you need every piece of the puzzle. Like if you, for example, Fei Xiao, if you don't have Robin, that's a pretty big detriment. You can always use Sparkle too, but a lot of people know about that. But Robin is going to be a sizable upgrade. And, or like, let's say when it comes to Firefly, if you don't have Ron Mei or a super break unit like Ting Yun, Fugue, or Harmony MC, then that team kind of falls apart a bit. The damage goes down quite drastically. But when it comes to the Herta, she doesn't have her premier top of the line team yet. So if anybody's missing in her premier team, you're not really suffering too much, right? You don't have Robin? That's all right. Use Remembrance MC. Use Ron Mei. Use Sunday. She performs just fine. If you're missing Jade, use Serval. Use Little Herta. Use, somebody else. And mind you, those are free units. The first two I just named are free units. Herta has been rocking the meta, and she's been doing it with minimal needs. And that is what an Emanator does. So put my money on it. She's gonna see buffs, probably pretty sizable ones in the future. Like Acheron, she's gonna get her Zhao Shou, So we're in for a ride. And Herta is gonna lead the way when it comes to that. But yeah, so I think she's placed rightfully so in tier 0. At the top of tier 0, I still think Fei Xiao is stronger when she has her premium team. But, it depends on what content you're facing too. Because when it comes to AoE content, the Herta's out here annihilating everything. So yeah. And I think Firefly is actually the worst out of all of them. Out of those 3, But then we go down to tier 0.5 for the damage dealers, the DPS. Actually, before we go down to that, I want to quick talk about the little switch that they've done with putting Firefly, Rappa, and Boot Hill over to the DPS side, because I mean that's always made sense when they first did that, when they first made the specialist category and they had Firefly and such over on the other category. I've always said that that didn't make a lot of sense to me. I feel like the first few times I saw it, I'd say in those videos, yeah, I think they belong in the DPS category, but it is what it is. And they finally put them over in the DPS category, and I feel like that helps clear up a lot of just kind of weird confusion when it came to that. Specialist was just wasn't concrete enough of a term in order to keep that going. But yeah, now it's DPS and support DPS, and that sounds good to me. And so now we have Fei Xiao going against Firefly in the same category, which is rightfully so. Acheron and Boot Hill and so on and so forth. But yeah, then we have tier 0.5, right? Now, there are characters in tier 0.5 that can perform just as well, and sometimes even better than the tier 0 units. That's just something that's damn near factual. But it's not really something that I can fight against in this situation, because it's like everybody can't be tier 0. Everybody can't be tier 0. It's okay. It's okay. Like tier 0 already right now is a little crowded. So saying that, hey, I think that Rappa overpowers Firefly in many situations, which she does, so she should be tier 0. Then you have 4 people in tier 0, right? It's just more so in more situations who wins out more, And I just feel that tier 0 and tier 0.5 in the current meta just aren't that big of a difference. I think, in all honesty, if you were just to combine tier 0 and tier 0.5, it really wouldn't make much of a difference. So I wouldn't fret too much about what's in tier 0 and 0.5, but everybody that's there rightfully belongs there, Acheron, everybody's saying Acheron fell off. No, she didn't. She just isn't stronger than the new units. That's it. She is still going sick. I have my Acheron without Zhao Shou, and she's still 1 to 2 cycling, the current MOC. It's really not that serious. Mind you, I've vertically invested in my Acheron, but she's still performing on par with the tier 0 units. Actually, maybe just slightly below. So that's not something to really over-exaggerate and say that she's fallen off. But I do think she's going downward, but she'll be all right. And of course, Boot Hill's the same as always. He's, especially with Fugue here, he can just, I feel like Fugue is now like before with Boot Hill. He had different partners that you could switch between. He could have, Broje, which was good. He could have Harmony MC, which was good. Not a lot of people knew about it, and nobody ever talked about it or acknowledged it, but he was really good with Silverwolf too. Silverwolf actually was a really good partner with him. I would say on par with Harmony MC, just depending on the content and the weaknesses of the enemy and such. But, he always performed well. And now with Fugue, I find her just a step above the other options. And now Boot Hill is just going crazy. Especially if you have like an E1, this is an E0 tier list, but if you have like to say E1 Fugue, then he's just breaking everybody no matter what. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, Boot Hill's doing his thing. Same thing with Rappa. Rappa, I think in many situations outperforms Firefly, but not 100% of the time. So the fact that one is in tier 0 and 0.5, it's not a big deal to me. It's fine. It's okay. Rappa is a force to be reckoned with. People talked her down when she came out, and she proved them wrong. Yun Li is also a fine unit. I actually have a lot of fun using Yun Li too. And she does rightfully belong towards the top. I do think she's kind of a step below the other 3 up there, but it depends. It depends on the enemy sometimes. So, but I don't have much arguments with her being tier 0.5. Jin Yuan. Jin Yuan is somebody who I kind of, like, people kind of talked up Jin Yuan when Sunday was coming and say, oh, Sunday's coming, he's going to be cracked, he's going to be super good, yada, yada. And I was kind of laughed to myself a little bit and said, yeah, y'all tripping, but all right, because Jin Yuan had a few problems. Because Jin Yuan, he's good, right? Like, he gets the job done, right? But the thing is, with Genuine here, one of his problems was not only that his lightning order was too slow and it took too long to have that damage come up, but when the damage came, it just wasn't good enough. And Sunday solved the issue of lightning order coming too late, but he doesn't solve the problem of his damage not being good enough, right? He just doesn't solve that issue quite well enough for him to be as top tier as people were speculating him to be, and it is what it is. Same tier as Kafka. People have been hounding on Dot. People saying Dot's dead, it's over, yada yada. Dot is still powerful, okay? Use Dot against Farog in this current MOC, and it's going to dominate, all right? If you use your Dot team, it's going to dominate still. So people need to understand this, right? Dot isn't dead, it's abandoned. There's a difference between the two. It's not dead, it's abandoned. So it hasn't gotten any power-ups, it hasn't gotten any attention, it hasn't gotten any new characters, it hasn't gotten anything, which sucks, and it takes away the fun from Dot. But it still performs. And I just want people to understand that if you're somebody that's invested in Dot, vertically invested in Dot, who has your whole Dot team ready to go, and you're like, damn, I can't use it because it's not strong enough, it's not as strong as Herta. It isn't, but you can still beat everything with Dot. With Ron May, Black Swan, Robin or Ron May, Black Swan, Kafka, and Huahua. The Huahua is best, but you can use somebody like Luocha, works just fine, and you're good to go. You're good to go when it comes to that. So I want people to fully understand that Dot does just fine, and tier 1 is a good place for it, I will say. And and if you have vertically invested in Dot at all, it's going to be performing in a similar level as the Apex characters. So I just want you guys to know that. Down here, of course, the usual suspects here. It makes sense. I don't have much to say about these guys. I feel like I've talked about ratio and such at full length. And same thing with the horrible downfall of Jing Liu. I talked about that quite a bit in the last video there. So I'm not gonna go on length with these guys. It is what it is. But let's go over to the support DPS section now. So the support DPS section has Topaz in tier 0. Now, this must be a recent change, because I didn't see this before. I've never seen it before. Now, there must have been a change they did one during Sunday's patch. But that's beautiful. I love it. I love to see it, because I think Topaz is fantastic. She's amazing. I'm not just saying that because of her ass either. I'm saying that because, well, there's a lot of it is because of her ass, I'll tell you that. But she is great. She is a great unit. People say she's the same as March, but I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't play March too often, so maybe I could be underestimating March a little bit, but I do think she's a step above the rest. And the simple fact that having her, I'd like to, whenever I put in value of 5-star units, I don't treat their E0, S0 as their ceiling when I'm comparing them to 4 stars. I make the comparison between the two and say how good one is to the other, if as all things stand. But I also keep into account that the 5-star can get stronger, right? I always put that into account. And can they get stronger in a reasonable fashion, right? For example, with Topaz, her and March are pretty similar in terms of performance, but Topaz can get S1. She can get E1. And I would rather have my investment in something that I know can grow versus something that I know is at its peak already. That's just what makes sense to me. Like, for example, I have an E0 Topaz. I want E1 so bad. She's been on a few reruns. I haven't been able to get her. I haven't been able to split enough funds to be able to get her too. For example, last time she was with Link Shaw, and I just figured that Link Shaw was the higher investment, but she can get stronger. So when I do get my E0 Topaz, my E1 Topaz, I'm not regretting the fact that I did that instead of using March, because now I have the stronger option now that I'm able to vertically invest. But that's kind of just my thought process when it comes to that. Jade in MOC, I don't know, I don't remember her being in tier 0.5 before. I do not it's not showing that she recently moved up. I don't remember her being that high. Now she is, and rightfully so, because she's Herta's best partner right now. So she is the same as, I mean, I wouldn't put her in the tier as Topaz, because Topaz fits with multiple people, whereas Jade is kind of just wants to be with either Blade or Herta. And in some situations she might be okay, but you know, it's not your meta picks. I think Jade is in a good space right now. And 0.5 when now that Herta is out is a fantastic spot for her to be in. I kind of talked about Black Swan with Kafka already, so you know, I'm not gonna harp too much back on that. I do like that that Black Swan and Kafka are in separate categories now, because they're kind of hard characters to compare because they kind of need each other. So I like that. And hold on a second. I don't like to talk about the people down here, but let's say make a quick second talk about these guys, Serval and Herta. I think that they are going to need to move up. They're going to need to move up to tier 1, because now that Herta is here, she has raised the value of them as an Emanator should, and they are great partners with Herta. So because of that, I don't think that they deserve to be down here anymore. I think that they have a clear spot in the meta on Herta teams, and I think that should take them up to tier 1 or tier 1.5. Actually, let's say tier 1. I'll say tier 1. I think they belong up there. I think that's one change that I think should happen, and I don't disagree with it. Going a lot longer than I expected. My throat is starting to give out a bit, so let's keep it going. Amplifier. There's not much changes here actually at all. Everything in Amplifier is actually where it should be, to be quite honest. Ron May, Robin leading the pack. I still think Zhao Zhou is overrated, but he does his job. I'll say Sunday is a better Bronya. I think he does quite well. I just think that his uses aren't that great yet until the summon meta takes over. Fugue is fantastic where she belongs. And then down here is, I think Remembrance MC might be a little underestimated. I think Remembrance MC and Zhao Shou should switch places. I definitely think that. Yeah, I just don't understand why Zhao Shou has been up here for so long. He's just with Acheron, you know. He's a decent option in other teams, but you don't pull him unless you're going to use him with Acheron. That's just my take on that. Remembrance MC, I feel like, can be used in so many teams. Herta, Aglaya, who's coming, we already know that, could be used that's a flex spot for many teams. And yeah, I think that Remembrance MC is just, the usefulness is just pretty great. But it says E0. We get E6 Remembrance MC, like just from doing the story. So I don't know, maybe that could be affecting something. But yeah, I always say Sparkle's underrated, but she, as of right now, she does belong in tier 1. I say she's underrated because people don't realize how much she helps out her niche, that she's still the best at it, but her niche still sucks. So it is what it is. She is still a stay down here. That's all I have to say about these, because I've talked about Soul Wolf, I talked about all that before. Poor Yukong. Yukong, I actually hyped up Yukong when she was first coming. I was a fool. Anyway, Sustains, they have 0 changes, as far as I can tell. You know, so I'm not, there's really not much to say about these guys. Every single time we went over tier list, I have the same thing to say about these guys. Nothing has changed. I do think that Luocha will have a comeback one day, but you know, that's a discussion for another day if it happens. But actually, one little thing about Luocha currently, actually, I want people to understand that Luocha is a fantastic sustain in terms of keeping the team alive. He heals more than anybody else in the game. He heals more than Lingsha. Obviously, he heals more than Fu Xuan. He heals more than Hua Hua. He heals more than Gallagher. He heals a lot. So, like, as long as you're not getting one shot, Luocha is still a fantastic sustain. And typically I say as long as you have 2 limited sustains on your account, then you're good to go. I still count Luocha with those 2. Let's say if you just have Luocha and Lingsha, and that's it, I don't think you need to really worry if you have any of the other ones. It's good to have other ones, like for example, Hua Hua should be in tier 0 actually. Hua Hua is fantastic. Yeah, Hua Hua should be in tier 0. Hua is a fantastic sustain, but like if you don't have her and you just have Luocha and let's say Lingsha, then you are good to go essentially. Like you don't really have to do too much more in the sustain category. We hype up these sustains a lot, right? But you don't need all of them, because for me, who has all the sustains, I only use like 2 of them. I only use like 2 of them most of the time, and it's just not necessary. I'll use it eventually in my follow-up teams. I use Lingsha on my Herta team, but I can use Aventurine on my Herta team too. I use Fu Xuan with my Acheron, but like a lot of times I use Aventurine on, like, I don't use all these guys. I really don't. I don't use all these guys. There goes long periods of times where I don't use one. Like during the whole time where people were talking about Aventurine, this is the bug and stuff like that, I was barely using Aventurine because I was using Lingsha so much. And the whole was gonna make a comeback. Like, so that's one thing I want to make sure people understand. As long as you have a sustain that keeps your team alive, you're good to go, right? The little advantages they have for their niche is nice, but they're not gigantic game changers that are going to save your account. So that's something I just want to kind of put out for you guys in terms of sustains, in case you guys were stretching yourself out trying to get all these different characters and you're like, oh, I gotta get Hua Hua now. Yeah, you should get Hua Hua. She's really good, but you know, if you're struggling in other areas and you have 2 sustains already, then don't kill yourself over it. But yeah, that's kind of the whole thing when it comes to the tier list, the new meta. You know, Herta has shaken some things up. She definitely has. I do think that there's a couple changes that should be made here to kind of reflect that. But otherwise, I think this is a pretty good tier list right here by Prydwen once again. Let me know what you guys think. Is there anything here that you don't agree with in terms of the Prydwen tier list, or anything that I said that you don't agree with? You know, definitely let me know in the comments down below. Any questions you might have, any thoughts, definitely let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you like the content I'm giving you. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you can get more content like this. Down to here, Legend out.